Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Frenemies of the People by CBL. Shana Tova. If you observe Rosh Hashanah, it's a new year. It has to get better. That's Natalie. That's Patrick. That's Eleni. I'm Dennis. We all get together to talk about politics, media, and terribleness. And increasingly, that is all just one big melange, one big omelet. Speaking of being better, we're still not sponsored by anyone. Maybe someday, but we're definitely, apparently, not sponsored by Naperville. So, Eleni, sources have told us that the mayor of Naperville, Scott Worley, has heard from other sources that we make fun of Naperville on this pod. Mayor Worley is a great mayor. We know him. We love him. Naperville is actually a great place to live, great schools, restaurants, entertainment, higher education, the Riverwalk. I think a careful review of previous episodes of Frenemies would show that we're just using Naperville as a way to make fun of Patrick. So, Elaine, I don't know what you think of that correction and whether you think that is true or not.
I would say that I think Naperville is a great place to be and a great place to live, in all honesty. Having visited recently, it is actually a really, really nice place. So I would have to say, for all the jokes that are had, I truly do think it's a great place. So, Patrick, good job holding down the fort out in Naperville.
Was there a statue of Patrick on their legendary Riverwalk yet?
I think it's on the beach now. They've put it on the beachfront, but
It's
yeah.
just I was not moving very fast. I had a statuesque presence walking to her.
I can see the crazy high school kids taking your statue and throwing it into the river, but that's a problem that's down the road, and that'll be no reflection on Naperville. Again, it'll be a reflection on Patrick. You know, Naperville is just burdened by the fact that it's top ranked in every category, right? And that includes if you are a dumb criminal. So you're on the top of that list too, Patrick. The Tribune reported that the 16th person has been arrested for allegedly having illegal weapons in their car at the parking lot of the Top Golf. That means that there have been 15 other stories of people being arrested for having illegal weapons at the Top Golf in Naperville on a variety of platforms, and yet the people keep on coming. As my late retired police officer father said, the bad guys are not getting any smarter.
I think you're right on that. I don't know. Sometimes in law enforcement, there's the adage, okay, we're going to do the deterrence effect. Pretty sure Naperville is showcasing the deterrence effect. If you come to Naperville to do something bad, more likely than not, you'll be caught. They used a drone and chased down some of those automobile takeovers, and they towed someone's car from McHenry County that was involved in one of these takeovers and had come near a police officer. So they're going to spare no expense to investigate and prosecute and find you. And yet folks come all the time and choose to be on the wrong side of the law, and they'll face the consequences for it. But, I think one other aspect you and I are familiar with, and our colleagues who work with entertainment venues, is it is a real thing for businesses to struggle with, that their consumers come to these very popular destinations, and at least they're not bringing the weapons into the facilities, but they're not storing them properly. They've got open cannabis in the car. They've got other things in the car. So a pro tip to any consumer visiting a highly trafficked entertainment destination: the police will do their job. Leave your weapons at home. Leave your cannabis in a state-approved carrying case. Stay on the right side of the law.
I would also add that I think Naperville is higher in their ratings of dealing with crime and there being consequences than our other major city that most of us, or at least I actually am the only one on this group that resides in. So, yeah, kudos to Naperville for taking
And,
care of business.
and producer Grace.
And
Producer
Grace,
Grace.
yes.
One list that Naperville is not at the top of, Natalie, is underfunded pensions. So that seems to be held by our beloved city of Chicago. And the Wall Street Journal editorial board wrote a few days ago, quote, Chicago's fiscal mess is infamous, but now its pension funds teeter on the brink of insolvency. Last week, Mayor Brandon Johnson had to dip into the city's cash reserves to cover retirement checks that a city pension fund couldn't pay. And this, I just find the timing of this interesting. And in fairness to Mayor Johnson, now he hasn't really had any great solutions to it, but he did inherit a lot of this mess, right? Like we've been on a downward trajectory for a number of years, but we have all these candidates trying to get in on the mayor's race, and this little podcast isn't going to endorse anyone, but not many of them that I've heard have suggested answers to this at this point. Some are a little bit more candid about acknowledging them than others, but I don't know, Natalie, this job seems like it just gets tougher every week.
Yeah, and in fact, the Journal just today editorialized again on Mayor Johnson's stance on crime and policing, saying it was a sickness, I believe was the word he used, in a fit of rage last week. It's like guns and golf. That doesn't go very well together if you're the mayor of one of the largest cities in the country that's currently embroiled in a major uh, crime challenge. They say the numbers are down, and that's great, but I would ask the mayor, do people feel safe? And I think the answer we could probably all agree on is no. But the pensions and the city's financial crisis are obviously at the core of all this. You can't pay for more cops on the street if you don't have the money to pay for it. And to your point, nobody's suggesting new solutions. It's more of going back to the same wells and kicking the can down the street. Certainly, Mayor Johnson inherited this, but he's not exactly creating any confidence that he's going to bring to bear any new solutions. And that deadline is rapidly approaching. I believe the budget is supposed to be, the proposal is supposed to be unveiled at the beginning of next month. So we'll see, but not a lot of confidence, including from the esteemed Wall Street Journal editorial board.
The Illinois General Assembly, that great deliberative body, and the governor contributed to this problem. The same journal editorial that I referenced pointed out that Springfield threw some gas on the fire. Quote, against the advice of budget watchers, Democrats passed a bill to increase pension payments for Chicago police and firefighters that added billions of dollars to pension liabilities and tanked their funding ratios. And the journal went on to say that the city's chief financial officer laid out in a memo to one of the governor's deputy governors that the proposed changes in the benefits would reduce the funded ratio for both the police and firefighters funds to under 20%. And the CFO wrote in a letter to the deputy governor, quote, many actuaries consider a funded ratio under 20% to be technically insolvent. So that's a mess. That truly is the definition of putting some gasoline on a fire. And Lenny, in fairness to the governor, the bill received unanimous support in the House and the Senate on several occasions as it worked its way to the governor's desk at every step along the way. Unanimous, not even a present.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is, we're seeing a shift in the paradigm of, supporting law enforcement, supporting police, supporting firefighters. So you're going to have some of that influencing the vote. But ultimately, the legislature is a very deadline driven body, as we know. And, everything that gets passed, okay, I'll correct myself, 90% of everything that gets passed is like up against a deadline when, there was no time to think. There was no time to process. There was no time to review. And so, that's how these things happen. That's how we're in the place that we're at, not just with pensions, but with all of our state's problems. But we just continue to band-aid solutions, and bad policies get passed ultimately. So can't say I'm surprised.
Definition of insanity, Patrick.
You know what I thought was news was that the city of Chicago had spare rainy day funds laying around. I mean, I at least give them kudos. They kept some operating capital in the piggy bank to cover the shortfall. But I think everybody knows if we were doing this to our own retirement accounts 30 years before we needed to draw on them, we'd be like, this is not going to end well. And I think all of us on this podcast would say we feel for the pensioners and their beneficiaries and their descendants. They did what they were supposed to do. And if this were any other organization other than a government, the feds would have stepped in long ago and said this is not passing muster. So the bill is due, and it's just a terrible situation. It's getting more expensive by the day.
So this segment of our podcast is really turning into an episode of C-SPAN, which must be really exciting for Patrick, but for everybody else who's watching, maybe not so much. So let's go to something a little bit more lighthearted, but maybe just as tough. And I'm talking about the Kennedy Expressway, but this time it's not the motorists, it's the crowd on the Kennedy who are commenting on the mural at the Kennedy Expressway, which is about right around Division, kind of around there. For more than a decade, as Block Club Chicago writes, Wintrust Bank has earned goodwill by offering nonprofit groups the opportunity to raise awareness via murals that adorn the bank's highly visible property along the Kennedy Expressway. They have rotating public art, usually admired daily, until this summer. The building currently features an organization that commissioned AI-generated art, which was hung about 9 weeks ago. Since then, passersby have taken to Instagram and Reddit to slam the use of AI on a mural that would typically be created by local artists. And the comments, sometimes the internet does not disappoint. So they have termed it, used phrases like AI slop to describe, and used it to launch into other political commentary. Have you seen this mural, Eleni, on the Kennedy Expressway?
That would require me to take the Kennedy Expressway, which I haven't done in a long time. Train all day, every day, whenever I have to go into the city. But I'm just perplexed as to how it was even discovered. I was reading that Block Club story about the AI usage, and would people actually have been even remotely upset about this had it not been known? It's confusing. I think, AI, for, all the bad things you can say about it, there are good things too. And so I just felt like it was, sounded to me like people looking for a reason to complain, which is usually the case.
The Patrick portion of this podcast is actually generated by AI. So just as a little case study, Natalie, you were just a baby, but back in '96, when the Bulls were in their heyday of championships, that mural was that building, that wall was controlled by a clothier called Bigsby and Carruthers, which was a famous Chicago clothing store, and they painted a picture of Dennis Rodman, and Rodman was in a painting of him in one of their suits with his hair in a very bright pink red color, and Rodman's portrait was blamed for traffic jams. There's always traffic jams on the Kennedy, but there was a gaper's delay from that mural back in the day. So it's always been a conversation piece in town.
I mean, I was a small child during that and recall vividly in my mind seeing that mural of Dennis Rodman on the Kennedy. So, yeah, I'm not surprised it caused traffic.
Well, maybe someday, Natalie, your kids will be talking about how they finally remember the AI-generated mural. on
I
that
wish
wall.
that AI generated murals were the, most controversial thing, or, Robin's hair color. I wish we could go back to that time when that was the most controversial thing we could be talking about.
Those are good times. You're right.
Hmm.
And were we going to win a sixth championship or just five? Any championship at all? Okay, it's time, producer Grace, to hit that button for Sounds Terrible. Can't wait. Who wants to lead off? Natalie, you got anything stocked up?
I want to hear Lenny's first.
We always want to hear the Queen of Terribleness lead off. You go, we go, Eleni,
Sure.
as another championship team once said.
Pretty sure you're not going to top it. Okay, I'm going to go with two things that go together, but then I'm going to separate working at Tylenol and being pregnant right now. Two really terrible things, but I will top that by saying I hated being pregnant. Many women embrace this whole pregnancy phase, are like, I loved it so much. I literally despised it both times and would encourage other people who might be listening that have been pregnant and hated it to reach out to me, because we need a support group for us, because we are in the minority of people who hated being pregnant. So that's me today.
See, Natalie, that was a good call, letting Eleni lead off. And that may take Advil, which has not yet been discouraged
At
by the White
least
House for
President
pregnant
can
women.
pronounce Advil.
Well,
If you're
yeah,
gonna
that's true.
if you're gonna call out a major, like undo a major scientific data point, you should at least know how to pronounce the word that you're talking about.
Okay, with that lead off, who wants to go next? Well, Natalie, you ready now?
Yeah, my birthday is coming up this week, so I love my birthday, but at the same time, the number's getting up there. So hope Mike has something up his sleeve to make it better.
Well, happy birthday, and
Thank you.
at least you're not as old as Patrick. Patrick, what sounds terrible to you?
That is true. I'll follow both Eleni and Natalie's take here. My son Calvin told me that my beard was grumpy, and so if loyal
That's
viewers,
perfect.
hi mom, will notice I'm David. And I don't like that the kids these days are saying I have a grumpy beard. So my hair follicles apparently reflect my personality. So that's always uplifting to hear. And I was gonna take a Tylenol, but now I'm overthinking that. I was gonna go to Nat's party and have some drinks, but now I'm overthinking that. I don't know. There's just a lot of pressure going on these days.
It's on brand, though. All right, so I have something that starts out sounding really warm and fuzzy and reassuring in these rocky times, but may not end that way. So, Block Club, another great Block Club story. We love Block Club. Portage Park's new mayor might not be able to sniff out political corruption, but she certainly has a nose for squirrels. Eden, a Great Pyrenees Labrador mix, won Portage Park's first ever pet election, rising to the top of the field of more than 60 candidates. And Catherine Cartwright is Eden's pet mom and also her campaign's communications director. And she said that the 5-year-old Eden already is very visible in Portage Park, which makes sense. That's why she probably won the election. And she was a rescue dog from Paws. And Eden and her mom are using her newfound platform to promote animal rescues across the city. And Cartwright will donate all of the proceeds from her Etsy shop to Paws and other pet charities. So, producer Grace, we should also put in here isn't that sweet? But here's what sounds terrible. That's not too far from where Eleni lives. What if she next year decides to enter her dog in the race and starts to bring some of her sharp-edged political sensibilities, just dropping some oppo on Eden or going with some negative mailers. I mean, Chicago politics could ruin this warm, fuzzy story like it has so many times.
Well, I unrooted corruption and my HOA board, my old one, in an election that I was inserted into by some of my friends who thought that it would be fun. And we did indeed, outside of corruption, find a lot of oppo on some of the, at the time, board members. Yeah, when you're political, you start finding interesting stuff like, missed child support payments, low on taxes, the sky's the limit. So yeah, the good thing is that Rocky's old and he don't got time for that. So he will not be entering that election. And also it was probably rigged anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Maybe Eden could solve the pension crisis.
Probably.
Then she'd be unbeatable.
That is a great point. It'd be a great platform for Eden, as long as Eleni and her dog lay off Eden. Let us just
Rocky.
keep Eden Rocky. All right, so we're gonna play the show out today with a little song from our playlist 20 years ago. A local band called the Red Walls had a little song, and you should check it out here on CBL FM. Until next week. Good.